What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of DC and RC. I'm Daniel Cormier. That's my friend Pro Bowl and Super Bowl champion Ryan Clark. In RC this weekend, we got UFC 271. We're going to talk about that. We also going to chat with Tai Tuivasa. And as we do every single week, we got to tap in, we got to tap out. But we go back to last weekend. Sean Strickland was able to get a victory over Jack Hermansson. A big victory. But as with a lot of these fights lately, there's some controversy. As one judge somehow scored the fight for Jack Hermansson. So then Eric Nitzik goes and says, hey, not even one media member scored it for Jack. I know we won the fight, but if this guy is still judging, he'll continue to make egregious decisions and ultimately he'll cost fighters their careers and livelihood. Fire Sal D'Amato. Sal D'Amato for a long time has been a judge. He's judged boxing for as long as I can remember, right? But on Saturday, he got it wrong, Ryan. He got it wrong, and he got it wrong 4 rounds, essentially. How in the world can these judges still be so blind as to what's happening at times? How are they not more knowledgeable in regards to a job that they are put in, especially when it ultimately can lead to a guy like Sean Strickland now being on the cusp of a title shot to kind of being just a contender?
You know what's so crazy, DC, is a lot of times we see this in fights that we think are close, but we still feel someone won 3 rounds to 2 or 2 rounds to 1. It's very rare that it's something so egregious where a guy clearly lost the fight, but he ends up winning on 1 card. And you have to think about if this is a swing fight or if this is a swing card and the card that allows someone to advance to a championship contender or to a championship opportunity, and then someone else falls out of the rankings or falls out of the top 5. And MMA fighters and people like you, DC, you work too dang hard to have a judge take that away from you. It's one thing if it's close, right? If things could have gone either way, but for a judge to be this wrong in this magnitude of a fight for a guy like Sean Strickland, I think that's egregious enough for there to be some sort of penalty laid down by the UFC so these judges understand what's at stake when they're asked to do their jobs on these fight nights.
You know what's a crazy thing for me? Jack Hermansson knew he lost the fight. You could tell by his body language, his demeanor as they walked to the center for the decision to be read. Now, ultimately, I will never call for a man to lose his job, right? I don't, that's not really my way of doing things. Sal D'Amato has a family, right? So obviously he takes care of his family with his job. But you have to be held accountable. You can't do these things and then just go on to the next one. We see this in sport where a bad call, a bad decision, something like that happens, and then that official goes on to the next thing. He just moves on. Whereas the person that was on the bad end of that has to live in that. It affects them long term, whereas we may see Sal in 2 weeks doing another fight. He may be doing a championship fight down the line. It does, to him, they just move on. And unfortunately, it's him in this situation. But again, there is a clear set of rules, Ryan, by which they're supposed to judge these fights. By giving them those rules, those guidelines, those things, it would seem as though it would curve some of those bad decisions.
Well, DC, let's go back to this playoff season, right? Go back to the Cincinnati Bengals facing the Las Vegas Raiders. It was terrible calls that entire game. There was almost a touchdown taken away from the Cincinnati Bengals because of an inverted whistle. And that crew was no longer allowed to call games in the playoffs, right? So the NFL said, you know what? Because you were so bad, because you were so off, and you could have affected the outcome of a game that people have lived their entire lives to play, you can no longer be a part of this. We are not going to allow you to degrade or lessen the integrity of the game in such a way where we allow you to move forward, right? We will not reward this sort of behavior or this sort of outcome or this sort of, And so I think you have to do the same thing in UFC. So now these officials or these judges understand that.
But what does that look like, RC? But like, what does that look like for a guy who's called multiple championship boxing fights? I mean, you've heard, when you start to recognize names, Sal D'Amato and some of the other guys that have calling fights. Tony Weeks and all these guys that we Adelaide Bird, who has for a long time had some questionable. I don't like to really talk about Adelaide. She's a nice lady, but questionable scorecards. What does that look like? Because there's boxing every weekend. There's UFC fights every weekend. If there's not UFC, there's Bellator. There's PFL. There are so many different fight cards that these judges are going to get jobs. Whereas there's one NFL, right? There's 32 games a week. And there's more officiating crews, especially come playoff time, Ryan, because guess what? If this was the regular season and those guys made that same mistake, we would have seen those guys, but they would have been on an obscure game somewhere where it didn't really matter. There would have been the Lions versus somebody, and they would be calling that game. And I think that's where
do the Lions
it
like
becomes
that.
an issue. No, just saying, dog. It would be the Lions versus
the Saints.
The Jaguars. It would be dude. Lions and Jaguars would be playing, and Sal Diamato would be one of the referees. That would be happening because you have to have them, and that's what I'm trying to get to. You got to have them, but we got to get a more stern punishment for when they do make these types of mistakes.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And when you look at the way the fight ended, it was a dominant performance by Sean Strickland that we shouldn't be talking about what the judge's scorecard even was, because they shouldn't have played into this fight in any type of way. It was one of those performances by Sean Strickland where I think he moves up and becomes the guy who can be a number one contender. If not the next fight, then the fight after this, after maybe fighting one of those top 5 guys. When you look at his performance, though, DC, because from the outside looking in and also listening to Paul Felder, listening to Michael Bisping, and they were saying how he wasn't really showboating or how he wasn't really talking trash. And they were saying it's because he understood who he was fighting. He understood that Hermansson could give him, the type of trouble where if he got loose or if he wasn't as focused, he could lose this fight. When you look at his performance, do you feel like that's a performance that propels him to a title contender?
The word contender is definitely attached to Sean Strickland now. He's won 6 in a row. Now, when you talk about the performance on Saturday, whereas it was very clear, what didn't happen, Ryan, was he didn't blow your socks off. It was more meat and potatoes. It was meat and potatoes. It was forward. It was touch him, touch him, touch him. Nothing crazy explosive happened. Nothing that left you going, this guy should be fighting for the championship. Does it put him on the short list? Absolutely. Dude's 25-3 now, 12-3 in the UFC. He's won 6 in a row. He's a beast. But now he has to go out there and get one of those performances where you're left kind of going, wow, I've got to see Sean Strickland fighting for the UFC championship. It'll take one more fight, but it did do him some good because Jack Hermansson is for a long time considered one of the better middleweights in the world. Limited, but he is one of the better middleweights in the world. And on Saturday, Sean Strickland did away with him 49-46. He went 4 rounds to 1. And it shouldn't have been any question. And to go 6 in a row now with his style, but like I said, meat and potatoes, Ryan. Sometimes you got to blow their socks off, especially if you want to propel yourself into true title talk. Right now, he's on the cusp. He's a contender, but he's not on that very, very short list of guys that we are planning to see stand across from the winner of Israel Adesanya or Robert Whittaker this weekend.
And it's crazy. It's crazy that you mentioned that fight because you were talking about Sean Strickland not being explosive. What was explosive was Izzy's first win over Robert Whittaker. The finish of Robert Whittaker when Robert Whittaker was a guy that was at the top of the world, and obviously still is one of the best middleweights living. When you think about this fight and the excitement that's been built because we've seen the matchup before, and Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya are both better fighters than they were that night. Robert Whittaker's already come out and said, you know what, ego was involved in the build up to the fight, and I was angry and I just wanted to take this guy's head off. And then Izzy's talking about just the beautiful science of violence. What excites you most about watching these men step into the octagon this weekend?
The rematch. The rematch, obviously, anytime you get to see Israel Adesanya fight, it's an event. I said one time, he's the guy that makes people want to come together. Like, Ryan, you'll call your buddies and be like, hey, man, at the house, I got the fights. When Israel Adesanya fights, he's one of those guys that makes you call a friend, let's get together, let's watch this. Robert Whittaker is a long-reigning middleweight champion, a guy with all the skills in the world. What I look forward to, and this is why I love rematches, what team can make the better adjustments? How do you get Rob to not try and fight as though he's Kelvin Gastelum? Because I believe that's what got him in fight number one. How do you get Izzy to fight the same type of fight while making enough changes in order to keep him a step ahead of Robert Whittaker, who looks better today than he did before? But I remember that arena, 61,000, Ryan. Unbelievable excitement in the arena. But for Rob, when he talks about his ego, it's because when he was the champ, it all happened super fast for Izzy. It's very difficult to see the new guy just take the world by storm. And Adesanya had the belt 15 months into his UFC career, and it took Whittaker so long to accomplish the things that he had accomplished. So I can see how the ego played a part in his performance last time. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm excited about it. These are two of the best fighters that are living right now, right? Obviously, the two top middleweights, and it really is no question. And when I think about rematches, I look at it as if you're playing the Baltimore Ravens twice a year, you know, and you have that first game. Both of you are tops in the AFC North, two of the best teams in the AFC, and one team just edges out another team, or one team is more physical than the other. Now you're watching film for that second time, trying to figure out, how do I get one play better? And I would have to think that Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker are trying to figure out, how do I get one strike better? How do I get one attempt at takedown better? DC, when you were going into rematches of high stakes, right? The John Jones, the Stipe Miocic, what were you focusing on in those second fights to be better? What were the things you were watching? What were the ways you were training to try to be at least one strike better, one takedown better than you were in fight one?
You know, fight one to fight two, you try to clean up things. You feel like you have a better understanding of what the opponent's going to do. Fight 2 to 3, all chips are on the table, right? Because you've seen everything. But it's small adjustments, because you can't overhaul everything, because ultimately you're in that position because of who you are and who you were prior to the defeat. So going back to the drawing board and trying to do everything brand new, it's a massive mistake that so many fighters make. It's small little adjustments that you hope will close the gap. Because generally in fight one, it's pretty close. Fight two, you get, because you come back and show you're 1A in a division. Robert Whittaker has done that. Has Robert Whittaker showed new skill on the way to getting this rematch? Little things. But what he has really showed is he's more willing to go wherever the fight takes place. So with Darren Till, he took him down more. With Jared Cannonier, he hurt him and he kept him at range. So he's been more willing to fight wherever the fight takes place and not force things. He forced a lot in the first fight against Israel Adesanya. And with a guy that can counter in the way that the last style bender can counter, you can't force anything. So for Bobby Knuckles, he has got to find his groove early, but also be okay going through the grind like he did against Joel Romero 2 times. Going through the grind in the Darren Till fight and just doing enough to win. But as we've seen on multiple occasions, RC, Israel Adesanya is an absolute beast, man.
So do you think, you kind of talked about Robert Whittaker having to learn to take the fight wherever it needs to go to get the W. When you've watched him in the last 3 fights or 4 fights since fighting Israel Adesanya, 3 fights, has he improved enough to beat the last style bender in the rematch?
You know what's crazy is Ryan, he was good enough prior, right?
But the first one seemed dominant to me though, DC.
Yeah,
it seemed like
it did. But Ryan, it did, my brother, but guess why? We saw Izzy go to hell and back to beat Kelvin Gastelum in April. Then when him and Rob fought in the fall, Rob is almost the same type of body style as Kelvin Gastelum. Rob presents wrestling issues for Izzy on paper. So Rob went into that fight with Kelvin Gastelum, went through so much damage in that fight in Atlanta that by round 5, Izzy was dropping him with everything. Remember, Izzy stood there and goes, I'm willing to die for this. I'm willing to die for this to be the champion. Right? It's a moment that will live forever in the UFC. Gastelum almost had to go through that fire in order to make the fight look like it did. And by round 5, Izzy had broke him down. That's why he got dropped and almost finished at the end of the round. So when Robert went into the fight, it seemed as though Robert goes, the blueprint has now been laid. Now I need to go and just attack him and make it dirty because I feel I'm tougher than Kelvin Gastelum. And that didn't work. Izzy was fresh. Izzy was popping him with the counters. He hit him with a nasty check left hook and dropped him and finished him. He was good enough then. But I think now he understands that he does not have to replicate what someone else did in order to try and beat Adesanya. Here's the danger. And I know it's a bit long-winded, Ryan. I'm sorry. Here's the danger. You saw Jan Blachowicz. You saw Jan Blachowicz fight very patient, wait, get to the end of the fight, take him down, and it didn't look like Izzy was able to find anything or a way out from Jan. Now you got to try to be careful not to try and go and do the same thing. It's a copycat world, man, in fighting. And Robert Whittaker cannot fall victim to that.
You know, what's crazy is you get so excited to watch these top-level fighters get in the octagon and do the physical battle, right? The physical battle is what we generally see. It's what generally excites us fans. But it's the mental warfare and the schematic battle that we don't necessarily understand or give enough credit. Guys like you who have actually been in the heat and been in the fight understand that, okay, just because it's like saying that because one team beat another team and we beat that team, we could beat the team we're playing. Like, that's not the way it works. Like, all fights and all styles, all bodies, they present different matchups. And that's what's exciting about this weekend to me, because not only do we have the fight between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker, we're also going to see Derrick Lewis and Tai Tuivasa. And I don't know if I've ever been excited for a fight that might not even go 2 minutes. Like, I don't know if I've ever been more excited to see two dudes. I mean, we got the Knockout King and we got the Shoey King doing battle on Saturday night in H-Town. And that, after we saw Derrick Lewis not show up in H-Town when he had an opportunity, you got to tell me, because, you know, you're the former heavyweight champ, bro. How pumped are you to see these two dudes get into the octagon and slug it out?
You know, generally you see this fight to start a pay-per-view because we try to rile you up before the broadcast starts. Then the moment the lights hit, boom, here come two dudes that are going to lay it out on the line. Now you're getting this in the co-main event. It's going to be crazy. Tai Tuivasa has now righted the ship. This dude was 3-3 on his way out of the UFC if he didn't win his fight against Stefan Struve. He's won 4 in a row now. Looked more impressive every single time out. But now he's fighting the greatest knockout artist the UFC has ever seen in Derrick Lewis. And for Derrick Lewis, RC, this is ideal. This is the perfect matchup for the Beast because he ain't going to be trying to take him down. He's not going to be clinching and wrestling him. He will not be trying to fight him at range. Tai Tuivasa is going to put his face in there, and he's going to go to try to knock out the Black Beast. We've never seen the Black Beast hurt much by people punching as much as Tai does. Right. But with Derrick Lewis, if you're not careful, it only takes one from Derrick Lewis to knock you out. The dude is extremely powerful. In this fight, Ryan, is guaranteed to deliver. There's also a fight between two fan favorites. Generally, people love Tai. But in Houston, Derrick Lewis is the king. And this dude he's tough, man. He's a tough guy to beat out there in Houston.
Yeah, so here is my question, though. When I saw this match made, obviously I'm excited because the styles of the fighters. But it almost seems like Derrick Lewis, at least from a ranking standpoint, is fighting someone who's not on his caliber. It's good for the fans because of the excitement, but you're fighting a guy outside of the top 10. Is this a huge risk for the Black Beast? Because if you lose to Tai, then what does that say about the rest of your career and the hopes of getting another title shot down the line?
You know, Ryan, it's such a harsh reality. It's such a harsh world we live in, right? Because it's dog eat dog. When you get a guy like Derrick, who has fought for the belt twice, who has lost twice, who has lost to the Cyril Gans of the world, and the friend myself, and he has lost to those types of guys. Now it becomes his position in the world for people to kind of jump him. Remember, last fight he fought Chris Dawkins, a very young heavyweight that wasn't supposed to really be on his level. And guess what Derrick did? He disposed of him. He knocked him out bad. So it's like, once you've been at the top for so long, the reality is you start going back towards 10 and then ultimately out of the top 15. And that's where he finds himself until there's some changes at the top of the division if he can keep beating guys like Tai Tuivasa. But hey, you know, it's a jungle out there, Ryan Clark, man. And when you have fought and lost fought for that belt and lost, you become that guy that they start to put you in there with these young guys that are on a run. It'll be up to you whether or not you become their cannon fodder or if you stay where you are or you feel like you belong to be.
Right. Listen, Tai Tuivasa took this fight, let's say, under some interesting circumstances, and maybe we'll get to ask him about that in a second. Yes. But when you look at the opportunity to fight someone who's fought for the championship, more than one time, when you think about this opportunity for him, what does this do for him if he gets a win against Derrick Lewis?
You know, for Tai Tuivasa, Ryan, if he can get this done, if he can beat the number 3 heavyweight in the world, he will obviously go into the top 10. He will start to make his way towards championship contention, something that honestly not many people thought was in Tai Tuivasa's future, especially when he's losing to guys like Sergey Spivak, who is also a good fighter, but by just wrestling him. But Tai, being the smart guy that he is, went and dealt with the issues that he was having in the wrestling. He was in San Jose for a while working with us, trying to get better, shore up those holes. It's a credit to Tai to understand where he was struggling, go back and get it done. But I mean, look at him. Harry Hunsucker, he came in on short notice. Tai knocked this dude out so fast. I mean, a name like Harry Hunsucker. I mean, come on. You saw what he did to Greg Hardy. You saw what he did to Greg Hardy, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the Augusto Sakai one was scary. He was out for so long that we panned the camera away from the guy because he wasn't getting off the ground. So you know what Tai Tuivasa brings to the octagon, and that is absolute devastating power. But Derrick Lewis brings the same thing, so it's guaranteed to be a really, really good fight.
Listen, that's why we can't wait for fights like these. And listen, the UFC is anything but stupid. And they understand that as fans, no matter if it's 3 against 11 or 1 against 2, if you promise us fireworks, we are tuning in. But speaking of fireworks, we don't have to talk about what Tai Tuivasa might do or might feel, because we about to ring his phone and make sure we get him on this show so we can have a little conversation. Y'all check this out.
And now for more on the fight, it's time for one round with my boy, my brother Big Bam, Tai Tuivasa. Bam, you're down in Houston, my friend. How you feeling?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, Tai, you're in Houston. Derrick Lewis is from Houston. You've won 4 in a row. Biggest fight of your career to this point. How does it feel on the Tuesday prior to going into the octagon with a guy that has fought for the UFC championship twice?
Pumped. It's another fight, you know what I mean? But it's obviously the biggest fight of my career, and I think I'm ready for it.
Tai, coming into this fight, and DC kind of read some of Derrick Lewis's achievements and some of the fights that has been in. What are you doing to prepare yourself for the magnitude of this fight? Or are you really just looking at it as the next fight you need to win to continue climbing the charts or the rankings at the heavyweight division?
Not looking too much into it, to be honest. Just like doing what I usually do, you know, focus on myself, making sure I'm trying to get better. And once I've been doing that, it's kind of been working out. So just taking it, you know, one day at a time.
You know, you told me when you came out to San Jose to train that you were kind of learning on the job. You were just a guy that was tough, that was willing to fight. But now as you've gone on this 4-fight win streak, do you feel like the lessons have been learned to make you a top-level heavyweight? Or do you still feel like you're learning and getting better every single day?
I definitely feel like I belong here, but I'm definitely still learning. I
Mhm.
think that's the thing about this sport. You know what I mean? I think that's what everyone who does this sport, you don't stop learning. There's always some move that someone's trying to come up with to fucking snap your neck off or some shit like that. So I'm always learning it. I feel like I'm just kind of getting better. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's still heaps more to come.
So, Ty, you have an exciting style of fighting. It's what we want to see our heavyweights be, a guy who's willing to stand toe-to-toe and trade. The first actual fight I was ever in the arena for, you fought Greg Hardy. Listen, I'm a former football player, bro. So when we see football players, we feel like we're the toughest men in the world. And Greg got a good shot on you, and he started to kind of try to back you into the cage, and you just put him to sleep, bro. And then you jump on the cage, you do a shoey. What is the emotion like when you know you're standing across from another bad man and you prove that you're the baddest man in the octagon?
Well, that's what attracts me to this whole fighting thing. Is exactly what you just said. It's a kind of one on one, man on man, and the best man comes out on top. And that's what I love about fighting, and that's what I've always loved about fighting. So there's always someone better. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, Bam, as your friend, as your brother, I understand what a night after a night like that looks like for Tai Tuivasa. I know what it looks like for Big Bam. But Big Bam, I read something that said you accepted the fight when you were drunk. So I mean, you're completely out of your mind. I was blank out drunk. I didn't notice until the next morning the UFC matchmaker McMahon messaged me, and I had messaged him back that I would take the fight. Ty, come on, man. I mean, come on, Ty. Is this just for fun or is this real?
Nah, it was real. I had the interview with Ariel just the night before, and I was on the piss with him, and then I kept going after that, and then I found out about it, yeah, that night. So
And
it's meant to
so
be.
once you and so obviously, you know what, you wake up and you read it and you realize that you've taken the fight, you realize that you've accepted it. Tell us what type of challenge you feel that Derrick Lewis presents to you on fight night.
He's a king of he's a knockout king. It speaks for himself, you know. I've been a fan of Derek. I've watched him since since I started this. So uh,
Mhm.
I know what he's going to bring, and he knows what I'm going to bring, and I think that's the whole point of the fight. You know what I mean? I think that I'm younger than him. I think I'm faster than him, and I think that I'm going to shock the world come this weekend.
You know, Ty, you fought in front of 60,000 in Australia. It didn't go your way. Spivak kept taking you down over and over again. Derek Lewis also succumbed to the pressure of fighting for the heavyweight championship in Houston. But now he goes right back to Houston. What do you expect when you hit the curtain on Saturday night? Because generally you get positive responses. But it's his hometown. He's a Texas guy, a Houston guy. What are you expecting? How do you expect to deal with not only Derek Lewis, but also fighting in front of a hostile crowd?
Uh, I think you know yourself. You know what I mean. You're a fighter. The crowd doesn't help you either way when you when the cage door shuts. You know what I mean. But I'm prepared for some booze. You know. But let's just wait till Australia opens up and then let my people fly over. You know what I mean? I'm sure I've got an army coming once all this COVID bullshit it goes away.
Hey, Bam, listen, Bam, you're
Yeah.
spending so much time in Abu Dhabi that the people in Australia, we've wrote you off. I mean, I'm one of the Australians too. We done wrote you off.
They don't even fool with you no more.
You done spending so much time in Abu Dhabi in five-star hotels that we Australians have wrote you off. I'm sorry.
Uber,
We Australians, who is we?
Me and my Australian people have wrote him off.
Australia never write me off. They never write me off.
Yeah. Ty, I got one last question, bro. Like I said, you were a part of the first fight card I ever got to see in person, and you did the shoey. How many is the most you've ever done in one night? And if you beat Derrick Lewis, how many can we expect to see from you in H-Town at the after party?
I go all day, all night. Doesn't matter. Whenever, wherever. I'm down for it.
Hey,
But,
Ty,
I love it, man.
Everyone asks me that question. I don't know how to answer it without myself sounding like a pure scumbag. But yeah, I just keep doing it.
Hey, Ty, what about when the boy poured beer in your eye last time? How did it feel when the boy poured beer in your eyes?
Bro, the guy behind me was pushing me out of there. I could have killed him.
Good thing you didn't.
Good thing you did, big dog. Hey,
I thought
Ty, good luck this weekend. Bro, I saw you grab your eye like, what in the hell? At that moment, Ty, you got to kind of question the degeneracy that you are partaking in when people pour beer in your eye. Like, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. You know what I'm saying? Just maybe. Yeah. My brother, good luck this weekend, man. Enjoy yourself. Thank you for joining us. Ryan, listen, that story about him being like lights out drunk, dude.
Crazy.
Wait till we get together. Wait till we get together and you hang out with Ty. We won't party or hang out and drink with Ty, but he'll tell you stories. The dude's out of his mind. Ryan Clark. I can imagine only Ty would have taken a fight like that. It's absurd.
Hey, I tell you what, though, when you take a fight like that, under those type of conditions and circumstances, you already know you got to show up and show out. And that's what we expect him to do. And listen, this dude, he's becoming an all-star. Some would even say a Pro Bowler. And speaking of Pro Bowls, we just had one this weekend. They didn't do a ton in them. But we're going to make our MMA Pro Bowl picks, right? So this is our draft. So we won't be drafting the Aaron Rodgers and we won't be drafting the Trayvon Diggs, but we will get to pick some fighters and put them on our Pro Bowl teams. And obviously, just as any other list we make, any other team we make, mine's going to be the best. So, Corporate Jay, get us started.
I'm about to smash this dude.
All right, guys, here's the criteria. One fighter selected from each division. Now, since there's no rankings for the women's featherweight division, we're going to leave that out. Once a fighter is drafted, he or she is no longer eligible to be selected by the other individual. And selections are based exclusively off of 2021's performances.
Oh, okay.
So, RC. RC with the first pick.
Wait, Corporate Jake.
Yes.
Here's my question. Do I pick first every round, or will DC get to pick first in the second round?
No, so we'll do snake format. We'll do snake format.
So I'll take snake
every round.
Here we go.
We'll do snake format. RC, you first.
All right. With number 1, I'm going to the welterweight men's division, and I'm starting out with Kamaru Usman. Yes, that is my number 1 pick. He gets all the Pro Bowl votes. He would get all the votes from the fans. He'd get them all from the players, the coaches, and the executives. This is the dude that had a great year. He capped off the year with another win over Kobe Covington. We had a huge knockout early on in the year against Jorge Masvidal. This dude's on the roll. I think he's the best pound for pound in the game, and that's my first selection for my Pro Bowl team.
You took the fighter of the year. Great job, Ryan. Hey, as the galley erupts because Ryan Clark made a great pick. You know what, man? I'm taking the heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou. I am taking, yes, Kamaru Usman got all the all-star votes, but he was only second to the baddest man on the planet, Francis Ngannou. Heavyweight champion of the world in 2021. Just to start this year, defended his belt. So I know they said only 21 performance, but that knockout of Stipe Miocic, to me, makes for him to be my number 1 pick. So I'm going to the heavyweight. I'm taking Francis Ngannou. At number 2, because it's a snake draft, I get to go second. I am taking Valentina Shevchenko, because Valentina Shevchenko is the most dominant fighter across all divisions in the UFC. I don't need to go back into telling you how great Valentina is. I stated that case at the end of the year. She is number 1 pound-for-pound women's fighter in the world, and I am taking her with my second pick, Valentina Shevchenko, the Bullet.
Okay, so here's my second pick, and I like the Valentina Shevchenko pick. She was probably second in 2021 to Rose Namajunas, though. And so where now you're feeling like, oh, look at me. I'm DC. I'm all big and bad. I got Valentina Shevchenko. Now I have already upped that, right, by getting Rose Namajunas. And my third pick is going to be, and now this is only because it's 2021. This is not a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is not the Hall of Fame. My third pick is going to be Glover Teixeira. Not just because the year was overall the greatest year. But this is a dude that fought back from losses to guys like John Jones that's been in this game forever. And he got his chance against Jan Blachowicz and finally got an opportunity to get the light heavyweight belt wrapped around his waist. So Glover is going to be my next pick.
Okay, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I will admit that. But I think it's a bit of a reach considering that you didn't take this guy that you love so much. So for my third pick, I'm going down to the favelas of Brazil. Well, previously of the favelas of Brazil, because now he is up on the mountaintop next to that Jesus statue. My boy, Du Bronx, Charles Oliveira, for what he
good
did
call.
in 2000.
Good call.
That's your boy. I can't believe you missed your
Good
boy.
call.
I'm taking
Good
Charles
call.
Oliveira. I'm taking Charles Oliveira because Charles Oliveira won the belt, defended the belt, all in 2021. So with my third pick, Charles Oliveira at number 4. I mean, this is just too easy. I can't believe they're giving me back-to-back picks and they got champions all over the board. I could throw. I am taking. This is gonna be. I'm taking Petr Yan. I'm taking Petr Yan at 135 as the champ.
No.
Because listen. I'm taking Petr Yan at 135 as the champion because the controversial loss to Aljamain Sterling, but to come back and beat Corey Sandhagen in the way that he did in Abu Dhabi to become the interim champion is why I am taking Petr Yan with my fourth pick. I'm on fire today. I am on fire today.
Okay, so with my next pick, I'm taking Alexander Volkanovski, right? Not only did he have one of the best fights of the year against Brian Ortega, he also was part of the best round of the year, which is the third round of that fight. And he survived, DC. He survived that round and ended up finishing on top. That was one of the best rounds of the year by one of the best fighters in the entire game. And that was something that we will remember for the entire 2021. Now, I have another pick, right? I'm going to go with Juliana Pena, right? Because this is a woman that took down the lioness, bro. It's the lioness, and she took her down. She did, you hated on Amanda Nunes for an entire year. And then I had to finally admit that you were right. You said it. You said it was going to be a tough fight. You said she was going to take her into deep water, and she did. And we were all shocked, but it happened. And so that's where I'm going with that pick.
You know what? You talk all that. I will take Amanda Nunes at 135 as my fifth pick. I will take the GOAT because even though she lost, she's still the greatest women's fighter of all time. I will take Amanda Nunes at number 5 at bantamweight because obviously we can't use featherweight. And then my next pick, I'm going up to 205. I'm taking Yuri Prochazka. Yuri Prochazka is a beast. Yuri Prochazka weighed in as a backup whenever Glover fought against Jan Blachowicz. Yuri Prochazka knocked out Dominic Reyes, who fought John Jones, really, really close. So at number 6 for me, I'm taking Yuri Prochazka, who is now fighting for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship this year.
Okay, so with this pick, I'm going to go back to the bantamweights. I'm going to take Jose Aldo. And here's why I'm taking Jose Aldo.
Okay.
Jose Aldo was a guy that we were putting in the discussion of being the gatekeeper, right? We were wondering, was he now going to be the guy that you had fighting to see who would get an opportunity to be in the top 5? He gets huge wins, and he comes back and shows us he's just as explosive. He's just as quick. He's just as on fire. What?
All right, see, I'm kind of quick to call somebody a gatekeeper, huh? I mean, I keep...
Yeah, that's every time.
What is going on? Why do I just try to put Derrick Lewis in the gatekeeper too? Like, what am I doing, bro?
That's
like,
come
on, Danny.
That's what you do. That's what you do. And so, let me see. So, I've had
you had a strawweight. You had a 115. You had you didn't have a 125 girls. You had 135. You had 145. You had 170. You had 205. So you're at pick number 6 right now.
You know what? I'm going to come back I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you. And now this guy wasn't as active late in 2021 because he was waiting on the fight, and he's going to fight Jared Cannonier. But Derek Brunson, and here's why I'm going to pick Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson, after being beat by Israel Adesanya, has fought his way back to basically being in the contender fight. If Derek Brunson beats Jared Cannonier, I believe he will have the next opportunity to be in what Israel Adesanya, if he wins this fight, calls his lap around the division. So do I have another one? No, I just picked two. It's up to you now.
Yeah, you picked two, so now it's my turn. Listen, I think this pick so late, because I think I'm picking number 7 and 8. Am I picking 7 and 8 right now, Corporate Jake?
Yes, you are.
I'm picking 7 and 8 right now. So I think this speaks to how a little bit of the shine has come off my guy because he lost to Jan Blachowicz. But to get Israel Adesanya at 7, Ryan, I mean, I know he didn't beat Jan Blachowicz to become double champion, but he did beat Marvin Vettori to retain his championship. So I got to take Israel Adesanya, but I think that it speaks to how he's viewed because he lost going up in weight class. So by taking the chance, this guy got picked 7th. Generally, we would take Izzy with the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick. He would never be available this late in the draft. So I'm taking Israel Adesanya at middleweight with my 7th pick. My number 8 pick, I'm going to go to welterweight like you, Ryan. But this time, I'm going to take Colby Covington. I know. He's lost twice. He hasn't beat Kamaru Usman with the fight in Madison Square. Nope, sorry, stop, X. I don't want Colby Covington. I changed my mind. I didn't give the commissioner. I didn't give Goodell the actual envelope.
No, you went.
So pulled it back. I walked over and pulled it back. I'm taking Hamzat Chimaev. I'm taking Hamzat Chimaev with my pick. I'm taking Hamzat Chimaev with my pick at welterweight. Sorry, I almost gave it to the commish, but then I pulled it back. I'm taking Hamzat Chimaev.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to, you know what? You know what I'm gonna pick just because you said that? I'm gonna take Islam Makhachev. That is where I'm gonna go.
You the dirty son of a gun. You the dirty son of a gun.
Wow, that's where I'm gonna go with my next pick. I think DC that is a great decision by me to make that pick and go with Islam Makhachev. Now, let's see where we are. I think I still need a lightweight. So for lightweight,
no, he's lightweight. Islam's lightweight.
I picked Islam lightweight.
Yeah, you
I need a heavyweight.
I think you need a heavyweight, dog.
I need a heavyweight. Derrick Lewis, Cyril Gane. You know what? I'm going to stick with...
Would John Jones qualify as a heavyweight now?
Yeah, but John Jones is just sitting outside, not doing anything right now, bro. We can't go with him. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna have to go with Stipe Miocic without even fighting.
Wow. What about Cyril? He became the champ last year.
No, here's why. Because by sitting out, Stipe Miocic has now sat out, allowed all these things to happen in that division, and we are waiting on him to fight John Jones. And if he fights and beat John Jones, he will have an opportunity to be the champion again. I'm going with Stipe Miocic for sitting on his butt, chilling, waiting his turn.
So it's my picks now. I got 2. So first off, I'm going to 145. I am going to what I believe is the greatest featherweight of all time. Max Blessed Holloway is my 145 pounder because after losing that fight, the Volkanovski comes back and has an absolute war with Yair Rodriguez, but not even that. More impressively, Max Blessed Holloway pitches an absolute shutout in January against Calvin Kattar. So for me, 145 is Max Blessed Holloway. My 115,
I'll take that.
my strawweight, my women's strawweight, 115. You know who I'm going to take, man? Honestly, I got to go Carla Esparza. I know it's not a sexy pick. I know it's not a pick that knocks your socks off. But when I tell you she's been consistent and she's been consistently good, consistently winning, I am taking Carla Esparza as my women's strawweight, or flyweight, sorry, strawweight, my women's strawweight, because she is on the short list for a title fight in a rematch against someone that she beat the first time that they fought. So for me, it's going to be Carla Esparza at 115 pounds women's against Rose Namajunas coming up sometime this year, I would think.
So let's see. So where I'm at, I think I wish I went Jose Aldo. Corporate Jake, help me out. What weight classes do I
You
even
only
have
got one left. You
Nope.
only got
So
one
so
left.
Ryan has 2 weight classes left: women's flyweight and men's flyweight.
Oh, okay. 125.
Okay. 125.
I took Valentina too. I mean, because you know
Yeah,
Valentina.
you did that. You did that early, bro.
I did.
Yeah,
I had to.
she's beating everybody. Like I want to say Jessica Andrade, but she absolutely dominated her.
Yes, she did. I mean, is Casey O'Neill at 125, Corporate Jake? She's 125, right?
Yes, Casey O'Neill's at 125.
That's
Thank
what
you
you should
for
pick,
giving me
Ryan.
a
I'm
pick.
helping you out.
There
I'm
you
helping
go.
you out, Ryan.
Thank you for giving me a pick. This is where the football player who only knows who was at the top of the list for this year starts to kick my butt. And so I need a flyweight man too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Moreno, even though he lost to
What?
Davis and Figueiredo. You gotta listen to this. This is a dude who fought himself out of the organization, back in, and truly gave us 2 of the best fights of the year. You have the fight that goes to draw in 2020. You come back and you win it, and then you lose it in what was one of the closest fights of the entire year in a 5-round war. So I can live with that. Even though Lego will not give my boy a sponsorship because his fans are too old.
I'm taking the champ Davison Figueiredo at 125. When you come back and win your championship, especially when people thought that you were going to be a long-running champion, when you get the job done in the way that he did, for me, it's Davison Figueiredo. So I know now, as I'm done with my draft, that my list is better than yours, Ryan. There's no way that
just because you pick champions.
Corporate Jake,
DC,
give me the.
My question is this,
now. Ryan, I don't want to hear
DC.
it.
You picked the guy that had to beat my guy in a 5-round war when my guy choked him out in the 2nd round in the same year.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter though. It's still it goes to Davison Figueiredo.
All right, guys, just recapping. Ryan, your Pro Bowl: Rose Namajunas, Brandon Moreno, Casey O'Neill, Jose Aldo, Juliana Pena, and continuing, Alexander Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev, Kamaru Usman, Derek Brunson, Glover Teixeira, and Stipe Miocic. Daniel, your final roster looks like this: Carla Esparza, Davison Figueiredo, Valentina Shevchenko, Piotr Jan, Amanda Nunes, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, Khamzat Chimaev, Israel Adesanya, Yuri Prohaska, and Francis Ngannou.
It's good.
There was only one champion left off the Pro Bowl roster: Aljamain Sterling.
You see,
That's not really the champ, though.
No, but he is the champion. But the problem is, I chose Piotr Jan as the champion at 135. When in reality, Aljamain is the champion. Ryan, don't dog him out. Lastly, it's just difficult to choose him when Piotr looked as good as he did last time. Sorry.
I'm not dogging anybody that can fight. Trust me, I don't want no smoke.
I mean, come on. ARC, it's time to tap in. It's time to tap in. Let's roll.
Last week, the UFC announced that Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes will be the coaches on this upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter. This means later this year, the two will have a rematch for the bantamweight title. RC, tap in or tap out? Nunes wanting an immediate rematch at 135 rather than focusing on 145.
I tap in because when you're as dominant of a champion as Amanda Nunes was in 2 weight classes, you're supposed to take the rematch to try to win your belt back. Now, if you lose it, you can always move up, but even moving up, like, there is no weight class really. There is no rankings in that weight class. Like, this is the one that would matter. And so to me, as a champion, you have to go back and try to earn your belt against someone that dominated you through 2 rounds and finished you with a rear naked choke.
I believe it's the right fight. I tap in. You know, if anyone's earned an immediate rematch, it's Amanda Nunes, obviously. So I just wonder what she's going to do different this quickly, Ryan, because she now has left American Top Team. She has started her own team. We don't know the issues that led to that move. So maybe we'll have a new, refreshed Amanda Nunes in the rematch. I'll tell you this much, though. Amanda Nunes will still go into that fight a massive favorite, and more people will feel confident going into that rematch than they did in fight number 1. So even on a loss, I think she's earned a chance to try to get the title back. And now we get to watch him on Tough. So good job.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.